Hello, this is Mounira from Connected Business, and I will guide you through a session about mindfulness and compassion in business today. So, a lot of people have quite difficulties in this fast-moving world to find focus and also to see what is important for them at work and to follow their own passion and purpose, and at the same time making the business successful. It is also an ever-changing world that has much more complexity, so sometimes it's harder for us to deal with the complexity and also with the huge load of information that we receive, right? So the amount of emails that we receive, meanwhile, is just like getting crazy. And so we're spending so much time answering all these emails until we kind of forget about all the other things that we wanted to do. So a lot of things have changed, and digitalization has created a new working environment. And when we look into the future, into the fourth industrial revolution that is quite around the corner, we can tell that this working environment will change even more. So this is why me and my co-founder Angel, we founded Connected Business to support companies to bring compassion and mindfulness into their business environment. Why mindfulness and compassion? Because we believe these are amazing and effective tools to tackle some of these really big challenges that we're facing. So let's dive deeper into mindfulness and compassion. Before we do that, I would like to invite you for a short practice, mindfulness practice. Very easy one. You can do this basically every time that you arrive in a room, or before you do a conversation, or just any time when you feel like you really want to be fully present with what you do or focus on a presentation. You can keep sitting on a normal chair, on your working chair, wherever you are, and just put your feet onto the floor and straighten your spine so you can breathe fully. Now take 3 very deep breaths. Deeply in through your nose and out through your mouth. When you breathe out, you can also sigh a little bit, like just to let go of any tension that might still be with you. Deeply in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now let your attention settle with your breath for a few breaths. Notice how the breath comes in and out. Notice the areas in your body that are touched by the breath. And how do you feel right now? What's your state of being? What do you notice? How does your body feel? What are sensations in your body? Do you feel tension somewhere? Do you feel energized or tired? Whatever it is, try to find a way to be super open and curious about it. It's like you're a scientist that explores. And how is it for you to be here right now? Are there still thoughts keeping you from being fully present? Is there still things that you need to remember to do today? Whatever it is, observe and let go of it. It's almost as if you observe trains in a train station coming in and out. And instead of jumping into one of the trains and driving away, and one of these trains could be one of your thoughts, you just go back into observing the trains coming in and out. Bring your attention back to your breath. Take a deep inhale. And open your eyes. In the business context, you might not always have the time to do a few minutes of just arriving. And it's not always necessary. Actually, you can do the same thing when you're in a business environment and let's say you are going into the next meeting by just taking 3 deep breaths, or maybe even only one conscious deep breath. And now, just for yourself, if you don't have a pen and paper next to you, take a second, find a pen and paper and just put it in front of you. And you can pause the recording here now if you need so. And write down for yourself, what is your interest in this topic? Why are you listening to this recording? What is your intention for it? And the second thing you write down, and it's just going to be one word, is what's your state of being? So in this short mindfulness meditation, what came up for you? What's your state of being? One word for each of these things, your interest and your state of being. So let's go into the why. Why is it so important to have mindfulness? I already explained a little bit at the beginning. And maybe you know the term the VUCA world. If not, it basically explains a situation in the military. It's like that's the war moment when you really have to be super alert and you don't know what's going to happen. And basically the other army could be around the next corner. And this term has been used in the business world quite a lot lately, because it's almost as if we would be in a similar situation, right? Everything is volatile and uncertain. We don't really know how our world is going to look like in 4, 5, 6 years, even 10. And that makes it super complex and also ambiguous, right? We sometimes don't know where our problems come from. So it's hard to say there's only one solution for it. And one thing that we really need in this time is our intuition and connecting to our intuition to make sure we're able to make any decision in the end. So what can you do? What can we do in this time of rapid changes? And one answer of us is developing emotional intelligence. So I think it's super astonishing to just picture that emotional intelligence can actually be trained. That is really amazing. We didn't really think about that. And it's an amazing skill that we can use to train it. And while we're on this topic, emotional intelligence, let me introduce myself a bit further. Emotional intelligence was a really big topic for me in my working time. And I've been working in companies like BMW, Red Bull, and then Google for the last more than 15 years in leadership positions. And I could tell that actually through certain practices and certain self-development work, my emotional intelligence increased. Back then, I wouldn't have called it emotional intelligence, but now I know that's what it was. And especially through mindfulness practices, I could tell that something shifted. I just became a better leader, but I was at the same time more connected to who I am as a human, what I want to bring into this world. How can I, first of all, what is my passion, to find that out for myself? And at the same time, how can I, in my working place, bring my whole passion in? And the funny thing was, the more I also understood this for myself, the better I became as a leader, right? You might think, oh, that's super selfish to focus on one thing and then you become a better leader. But it actually was, because I knew myself better. I could tell where my strengths and weaknesses were. I could support others better by knowing what I'm not good at. At the same time, I knew when to ask for help. And obviously also knowing what I'm good in and what I'm passionate about helped me to also find those positions that resonated with that. And it helped me to support my team to also find their own passion and purpose in their role. And only because I found my own way through it, I was able to also support others with this. Yeah, and at Google, it became my 20% project to teach mindfulness courses, especially the Search Inside Yourself course. That is a mindful leadership training that has been developed at Google. I became one of the trainers at Google and taught this course globally. In the meanwhile, I'm an external trainer for this course as well, and teaching the course all over the world in different companies and organizations. And it's been astonishing to me to see how this improved the lives of so many people. At Google, in the meanwhile, it has been tens of thousands of people going through the course and giving us astonishing feedback of how this made a total difference for them, how they showed up in this working environment. And so it became clear to me I want to share this, and Connected Business is now the project, and that came out of it. So let's go back into emotional intelligence. This is part of the Search Inside Yourself training. I would just want to give you a sneak peek. So it is based on the book of Daniel Goleman, which is called Emotional Intelligence at the Workplace. And Daniel Goleman has really researched this topic a lot, especially in the business environment. And he made amazing studies about the effect of emotional intelligence and how important it is to focus on that. And as I said, it's a skill that we all can learn, and that's the amazing thing. So he's pointing out 5 areas of emotional intelligence. The first area, which is basically the foundation of all other areas, is self-awareness. So without self-awareness, we cannot really develop skills, because we need to know ourselves. We need to have clarity about ourselves. It's giving us a bigger picture, not only of our thinking, but also of our emotions, and about who we are as a person, right? What are our habitual behaviors? What triggers us? All these things are important, not only for leaders, but obviously very important for leaders to know all these things about ourselves. And once we know these things, we can start self-regulation. That's the second area of emotional intelligence. And it's not, self-regulation doesn't mean to control ourselves. It's more about going from a compulsive behavior to choice. So I'm really choosing how I want to behave in a certain situation. And you could call it the internal stepping into a bird perspective, right? All of a sudden you can see yourself in bird perspective, and then you can bring in all these other aspects, like, what is the kind of person that I want to be? And if I want to be that kind of person, how would I like to react in this conflict situation, for example? And that one is actually not a really easy thing. So it takes some practice to actually step out, in, especially in moments when we're triggered or emotions are really high. It's really hard for us to say, oh, I'm just gonna respond and choose my response, right? It really takes some time, but it's amazing once we have that space, what it does. And the third part of emotional intelligence is motivation. So what motivates us? What are my values? What is intrinsically the thing that motivates me to do things day in, day out? And once we basically developed all these areas to getting to know ourselves better, then we can go into empathy, which is the fourth area of emotional intelligence. Empathy is the ability to put ourselves into other people's shoes, and at the same time, and that was really astonishing for me, it's also to understanding that sometimes we pick up on emotions of others that are not ours. So it's also discriminating between, are these my emotions or are these emotions of others? Let me give you an example. If you're super relaxed and you have a great day and you go into a room full of stressed people, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel stressed too. And the more, let's say, sensitive you are to these things, the more you kind of take over all these emotions that you feel in others. And so it's about, in that moment, understanding, oh, that's just not my emotion. I'm not stressed right now. And then the fifth area of emotional intelligence is the social skills. It's the skill to have a conversation with people in conflict, right? Making a conflict situation and conversation in a way that creates a new solution and that keeps connecting all the people. And it is also understanding others, being able to support others and inspire others. So all these skills are part of emotional intelligence, and you might ask yourself, so yeah, how can I even go into these skills? As mentioned at the beginning, it starts with self-awareness. And self-awareness is really the foundation. And therefore, I want to introduce you to one study that has been published in the Science magazine in 1997 by Batchelor et al. And it's a really interesting way of showing how self-awareness can help us to have more knowledge what is going on for ourselves. So imagine we're doing a gambling game, yeah? So I have red cards and blue cards, and I'm gonna ask you to pick these cards. And you have to reach a certain number to win. But what you don't know is that you can actually only win by picking the blue cards. The red cards will never get you into winning. So this is the experiments that they did with people, with a group of people. And funny thing was, what they saw is after 50 cards, the people had a hunch. Yeah, so they were like, oh, something is kind of strange and weird. And they had a kind of a hunch that the blue cards might be the ones they should draw. After 80 cards, so 30 cards later, they figured it out. So most of the people were like, okay, I get it. It's the blue cards. I should just take the blue cards every time. And so that's how I'm going to win. What also happened is they put the people onto a lie detector test. And so they measured their sweat glands. And that's the astonishing thing about this study. After 10 cards already, the palms of the people started to sweat. And their behavior started to change. So after 10 cards already, they started to draw the blue cards and have a tendency to draw them more than the red ones. But the funny thing is, only 70 cards later, we were actually aware of it, right? We were like, oh, I figured it out. And when we look into the brain, it's really interesting to look into that mechanism. When we look into the emotional part of the brain, which is the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking part of the brain, it's basically, and I'm describing this very simplified, just so you have a broad understanding on this mechanism. So the emotional part of the brain receives a signal whenever we have an emotion, right? And that signal goes to the nerve system, and from the nerve system it goes into our body. and it causes a body reaction. So in this card game, that was my sweat glands starting to be active, right? And only much later, our thinking brain gets a notice from the emotional brain. By the way, there's an emotion or there's a body reaction. You should maybe know about that. Right, in this gambling game, only 70 cards later, our thinking brain had oh, I'm figuring this out. But the behavior changed right away after 10 cards. So what we want to do, and that's what emotional intelligence does, is it is connecting the dots. So it's increasing the bandwidth between the emotional part of your brain and the thinking part of the brain. So super interesting, and I mean there's so many studies out there, but I'm gonna leave it there to show you only one of them. So what helps us to develop emotional intelligence and self-awareness? And the answer is, at least the answer that the Search Inside Self-training and also we came up with, is mindfulness. So mindfulness, not being like you are meditating every day for 10 hours, but we see mindfulness very easily and simplified as a way to step out of autopilot. Yeah, it's a step out of autopilot. Maybe you know this situation in Matrix where the bullets just come and arrive, and Neo is standing there and he's like, oh my god, they're gonna kill me. And then there's one moment when he realizes, wait a second, this is the Matrix. And then he takes one of the bullets and throws it down, and in that moment all the other bullets just go down. And that's when he realizes, yeah, what is really present right now. And that's what mindfulness is. So going out of the autopilot of everything that is happening around us and all the sensations and influences, and stepping back internally. And mindfulness in business has so many amazing benefits. So it's resilience in times of rapid change. It also solves not only technical problems, but you can also become better in adaptive problems. It is also helping us to focus better and to have a better mental state. It helps us to thrive in a fast-paced, connected world without boundaries. And it also helps us to create an inspired workplace that supports true human development. So many amazing benefits of mindfulness in the workplace. And another thing that we can tackle with mindfulness that I mentioned before already, but I want to go deeper into it, is resilience. So the resilience is the ability to overcome obstacles along the way. But it's not only that, it's really, developing a way that when things are stressing us, or this one project that I have worked on many, many months is all of a sudden changing from one second to the other, and I have to do something totally different, or I have to tell the whole team that we have to go a total different direction than we did before. So all these really big changes that we have, much, much more coming in the future in this working environment, to navigate these changes, right? To not get totally angry about that, or to be super emotional about it, or to have a hard time to deal with this change, but to find a way that we can navigate it that still lets us be calm and come from the person we want to be. And I find this sometimes super hard, especially with also all the information that we get, right? We get so many emails and so many phone calls and so many messages. So to always step out of the autopilot is a real practice. And that's the thing, we can practice resilience. We can become more resilient beings. And one wonderful way of getting into resilience and into mindfulness is we say that there's different steps, and the change starts from the inside. So it's always like you start with yourself, and from there you can inspire the change in the outside. So resilience and also other topics are starting with what is going on with yourself first. So we're becoming aware of that, and then we can change the outside circumstances. And we recommend a few steps that we're working on with different businesses. So first of all, to understand mindfulness in the context of business, and then finding your passion and purpose. And it's funny, so it's like that's one that can be scaled, right? First of all, I can find it as a person, then I can show my team how to find their own passion and purpose. And I've made so many amazing experiences sharing that with others and seeing, wow, how amazing it is to support people in my team to step into their passion and purpose, and to really be connected with that. And yeah, the result was that they were even more engaged and empowered in their job, and at the same time they also did something that they benefited in life. And then obviously passion and purpose is also an important topic for an organization, right? So if a purposeful organization has like a wonderful person and knows what the core and the passion of the organization is, this will have people also connect to it, right? So it's also about what is the higher purpose of that company that is becoming more and more important. So it's passion and purpose. And then the next one is practice. So finding a practice to regularly practice mindfulness or any other technique that helps you to develop new skills like emotional intelligence. The third step, no, actually it's already the third step is life strategy. So you're really going into life strategy. We do a lot of strategies in business, but we sometimes forget about doing them for ourselves. And as a leader, I can also tell how amazing it always was to not only have my own life strategy, but also to share that with my colleagues and my bosses, and also to support my team to make their own life strategies. And once you have that, it's also important to reconnect to compassion. Right, I know compassion is a topic we don't want to hear a lot in business, and it's kind of a bit cheesy, and we're like, what does that mean? But today's working world really needs compassion. It needs for us to step into a servant role, right? The more we serve the whole team as a leader, the more we can actually empower all of them. And leadership is becoming more and more the servant role, and less the one that is saying what is to do the next. And what is really amazing about that as well is the more we serve, the more there is a win-win situation for me and my team members, but also maybe for my company and their competitors or the people out there. So it's a real win-win for everyone involved. And part of compassion, so compassion is the other step is authentic communication, right? So once we are more connected to our compassion and this like leading by inspiration mindset, the more we can also speak very authentically with people. Because my experience is that very, very often in business environment, the truth is not really spoken out. People don't say what is really going on, or there's a huge elephant in the room, everyone knows about it, no one says anything about it. And so authentic communication really means to authentically tell the truth and to express myself in a way I want to show up as a person. At the same time, combined with compassion, I'm going to make sure that I'm not hurting someone while I express myself. But I do it in a way that still includes everyone who listens, right? It's not a blame game, but more like I'm taking responsibility for what is going on for me, at the same time, I'm very clearly stating the things. And when you're really compassionate, some people think like, oh, you can't make tough decisions anymore. I would say it's the other way around. You really need a lot of courage to be super compassionate, because it means you're stepping up, you're saying the whole truth, and at the same time, you're making tough decisions. So I would say it's the mastery of being a leader is compassionate leadership. And also, if you do it this way, people will follow the inspiration, as mentioned. And so once I'm like in line with myself, the cool thing about it is then I can go into real co-creation and really involve the team in a way that they also want to take responsibility. Maybe you know this, sometimes, you go into a team and no one wants to even hear about anything, and it's like, we don't want to take any responsibility for it. And co-creation techniques can make it possible that people feel as part of a solution, right? So co-creation is not only a technique, but it's really a mindset, right? Thinking co-creatively. Which means we have to be brave enough to allow that all opinions are welcome, even if they are controversial, or even if we don't agree at all with them. So everyone in the team can express themselves. And that way, everyone can also step into their highest potential, but also be part of the solution. And there's amazing tools for co-creation, which is vision circle, talking circle, design thinking, objective setting, project mapping, theory U. And when you combine these tools with a co-creation mindset and integrity and a culture that is curious and open and diverse and open to the diversity of answers and provides psychological safety, you will have so much innovation and so much creativity flowing all of a sudden. And that is also, obviously, when you want to go the really big step, that would also mean reinventing the organization. But we're not going to go too deep into this topic right now. So to summarize, change in the inside inspires change outside. Let's go into one exercise so you can right away kick it off. Please keep your pen and paper next to you, because you're gonna need it in a second. Put them aside. Sit down with your spine straight, either on a chair or on the floor. And take 3 very deep breaths. Deeply into your nose and out through your mouth. Deeply into your nose and out through your mouth. And now go into the question, what makes your heart shine? What is it that gives you meaning? What is it that motivates you? What is it that you're super curious about in life and you want to know everything about it? You read every article, you watch every movie, and you read every book. Is there one thing that you're always curious about? What is it that you would do even if no one would ever pay you for that? You still love it so much, just gonna do it anyways. What is it that you would do if you had every money in the world? So money is not on the table. What would you do if you had so much money that you can afford anything? What would you do? And if you could finish that sentence, I feel at my best when I, what would you answer? What is it that makes your heart shine? What is it that makes meaning for you? What inspires you? Take one more deep breath. And open your eyes. And now take your pen and paper and write down what just came up for you. And we're using the journaling technique, so it's really about keep your pen moving. So it's not so much about like thinking about what came up, but really like what is the first thing that comes onto your pen right now? What do you want to write down right now? And if you feel any resistance, like, oh, you cannot write that down, or this is unrealistic, just keep your pen moving. Just keep writing it, even the things that keep you from thinking it's realistic, right? You can even write that down. And ideally you just pause the recording here right now to finish that exercise. Authenticity and communication. So the last part that we want to talk a little bit more deeper about, or I want to talk a bit more in depth about, is authenticity and communication, and how authenticity is really important to communicate certain things in our life, in certain situation. What is, let's say, the voice, my voice, how do I express myself? Am I really expressing my truth? Do I feel like I'm holding back sometimes? Do I feel like that I cannot be truthful with people around me? All these questions are really important, not only to solve a conflict, but also to feel fully as a full human when we go to work, right? So, and also authentic communication also means to me to follow your personal values, right? What are your personal values, and are you expressing them in the way you talk, in the kinds of words you're using, right? So all of this has a lot of power. Words are very strong things in our life, and they can make us feel better and they can make us feel worse. Not spoken things can upset us and also make us feel worse. And we spoke about empathy before, and it's so funny because how communication works is, it actually is, we can feel things, right? Even if something is outspoken, not spoken out, we can feel that. We can feel that in a moment, in a team, when there's a conflict between certain people. We can just see it by the way they interact with each other. And so I found it super empowering to find my own authentic voice, and in a way how I can actually communicate with others. And we have an exercise for that, which is you find a partner, and maybe, for example, you do this passion exercise beforehand, and then you share this passion with each other, right? You share what came up in the writing with each other. The thing is, so first of all, you share it as, in the way you would normally share it. And the second time, before you share it, you share the same story, but before you do it, you take a deep inhale and you connect to yourself and maybe get connected with your feet on the floor. And you connect with your belly. So the belly, the hara, is basically the center of us, of human body. And it's kind of like you try to connect with your gut feeling. And before you talk, you just think about what kind of tone of your voice would make it possible that the person who listens to you talking about your passion really can feel how you feel about that. What kind of tone of voice do you need? What are the words that express that feeling? And how can you share this in a way that this person who listens can fully see that picture that is inside of you right now about your passion? And take a deep inhale. And then open your eyes, and then you can start the sharing process. Right? So first of all, both you share just right away what your passion is, and in the second part you use that walkthrough that I just have done with you to do it in a different way, and then see what comes up. How does the first way of sharing differ from the second way of sharing? So another way how you can do communication is called mindful listening. That's a way of communicating to really give the gift of listening. Very often one of the things that we never do, especially as leaders, is just to listen. But maybe you notice that yourself. These leaders, when they come into the room and they keep on talking and no one wants to hear it anymore. So at one point we just switch out and we're like, okay, it's gonna be this monologue conversation again. When you do mindful listening, you actually give the whole gift of only listening. And a very easy exercise that you can do is you just have a timer and you give each of you, let's say, 3 minutes time to just share. And you choose who is person A and who is person B. And then person A will listen and person B will only listen mindfully. Person A will talk and person B will listen mindfully. Not saying anything, just giving the gift of listening. Person B can nod and smile, but not saying anything. And once the time is over, you switch sides and then person B is gonna talk and person A is listening mindfully without saying anything. This sounds really easy, but it's done so many amazing effects when I tried this also in business environment. And sometimes it's astonishing, people come in and they tell you a lot of things and you don't say anything, and they go out and they're like, thank you, you've helped me so much. And it's just because very often when people come to us with a problem, they don't want us to create a solution for them. They just want to be listened to so they can, in their head, it's like a brain dump, or just like creating more structure in their brain so they understand their problem again. So this can help us to have more bird perspective on our own situation. Okay, we are at the end of this. Before we close this program, I'd like you to take your pen and paper again and just quickly reflect 2 words. What surprised you most in this program? Or what is one thing that you want to do afterwards and try out? And the second word, what's your state of being right now? Just write down these 2 words. Now take away your pen and paper and close your eyes one more time. Go into 3 deep breaths. And just notice, how do you feel right now? What is present for you right now? Take another deep inhale. And open your eyes. When you look to what you just wrote down before, have a look again and see if these 2 answers are still the same after this practice, or if you want to add something to that. And this is the end of the audio program. I hope you had a really good time. And my name is Mounira from Connected Business. And if you want to dive deeper, you are very welcome to check out our programs at connected-b.com. I wish you all the best. Thank you.